Hi, it's Nick on the 21st of July with episode 5 of trailers to the new program I'm launching called The Message You Were Born to Share. And today I'm talking about the idea that I'm sure you will recognise, because we all recognise it, is what I call our resistance. That whenever we're inspired to do something, whenever we're inspired to show up and to share our gifts and to become visible and better known, we experience resistance. That resistance can take many forms. We can procrastinate, distract ourselves, forever plan, you recognise it, but we just don't do it. We just don't ship and go public with what it is that we would love to be doing. If all the written books that have never been published are on people's hard drives now, all the articles that have never been published, all the ideas that are going around in people's heads that haven't found it onto videos or articles or books or whatever, if all that happened, the world would be a very different place. My belief is that we're all inspired, we've all got these amazing gifts, and it's our resistance that stops us getting them out into the world and making the contribution that we're here to make, stops us truly living out our calling. So what I've come to realise is that where there's inspiration, there's going to be resistance. The two come as a package. In my experience, most people don't get a free ride. It is a case of buy one, get one free. Access inspiration, get resistance free. It's a territory we're all dealing with. I used to think it was just me that had, chronic resistance at times, and the more honest I've been about it over the last 10 or 15 years, the more, I've been open and authentic about it, and the more everybody tells me, yeah, I have it, I just, hide it, or I don't talk about it. So we're all up against it. So I think that's the first thing to accept, is we're all up against resistance. What does resistance aim to do? It aims to keep us small and afraid and not sharing our gifts. That's what it aims to do. So if it is your calling to be a messenger and to show up in the world, it's a very, very exposing thing to do, to share what you truly think and feel and believe, and potentially what your own experiences have been. So that's, to me, the ultimate act of generosity and courage, is to really show up and share yourself, your heart and your soul with people. So the consequence of that is you're going to be experiencing resistance, perhaps on a fairly regular basis. And the good news is, and you can get through it. But in my experience, it's not a one-off deal. It's not like, oh, okay, I've learned how to beat resistance, I'm never going to have it again. One of the expressions I like most is, when we're wanting to live a life of inspiration, when we're wanting to live out our calling, a creative life, a life of leading the way in our own life and offering any kind of leadership in the world, we are in the trenches with resistance on a reasonably regular basis. I'd love to say that even though I've written 14 books and given talks around the world and I've done hundreds of videos and put them on YouTube, that I've beaten resistance once and for all. I haven't. My area of operation is greater than it ever has been, and when I bump up against my new edge, about showing up in a new way, a more authentic way, to play a bigger game of some kind, then that's when my resistance kicks in. When I'm wanting to show up as the next chapter of my own authenticity, if you like. Resistance usually shows up around our higher purpose. If we're not aiming for our higher purpose, you're going to get a resistance-free life, probably. When you want to live a life of some kind of, whatever you want to call it, higher purpose, soul purpose, then that's when you're going to experience your resistance. So whenever I'm up against, or whenever I'm birthing a new chapter of my calling, I'm usually hitting against resistance. Sometimes for a little while, sometimes for a short while, sometimes for a considerable period of time. Sometimes it's like, chipping away at granite, it feels like, and then eventually it begins to cleave and I find myself in a new place. And I think that's how it is for all of us, in my experience, But unless we realise that, we could easily get caught up in thinking, well, when I've figured out how to really beat my resistance, then I'll show up. But I don't think it works like that. That could just be the passport to a life of continued resistance, because you're waiting to feel ready. So one of my big tips, and one of the things I'll be sharing on this program, is don't wait until you feel ready. We beat our resistance by acting in the face of it. We beat our resistance by being bold and brave and courageous, often in tiny ways but consistent ways. That's how we do it. it's highly unlikely that we're going to do enough kind of inner work or go on enough workshops and enough training programs where we're going to go, you know what, no more resistance, totally confident now, you know, bring it on. Some people are like that, but in my experience that's not how most of us are. We're a combination of, you know, greatness and confidence and capability and vulnerability and fear and anxiety. And it's how we navigate those two things that determines the quality of our life and the impact that we make. So that's what I'm going to be covering in this new program is, you know, what is this area of resistance? What does it look like? How does it show up? How can we spot it? What's it aiming to do? And then how do we get through it? And also an important question I'll be covering on the program is why we would even want to get through it. Because on a surface level you can think, well, why even bother to face fears? Why even bother to feel insecure, face insecurities? Forget it, you know. So I think each of us has to have a reason why we choose to even go in the direction of our calling, knowing that we're going to face fear, insecurities, even pain sometimes, old pain and whatever might go on inside us. So I hope that's been helpful. That's what I'm going to be covering on the new program that starts on the 1st of August. So God bless. Have a good day. Bye-bye.